When fire broke out at King's Cross Station, heat and smoke made it difficult to see. Like so many fires, this one spread quickly. 31 people died in a matter of minutes. The tragedy shocked everyone and became the subject of the longest inquiry in British legal history. When another fire occurred a few minutes away, it didn't make the headlines, but it too proved fatal for those involved. As is so often the case when it's too late, here too there were lessons to be learned.
Well, I think that had all the fire precautions been in place, then they would have stood a very good chance. Eyewitnesses to the fire reported the fact that extinguishers didn't work, that escape passages were blocked, that there were many, many lapses in fire security, and one can only say that they would have had a very much higher chance of escaping from the fire had all those precautions been in place.
Right, getting fixed up, yeah?
Fires are expensive and unpleasant. They sometimes end spectacularly, but they always start in very simple ways.
Oh, George, just a moment. There's another phone going. Hang on a second. I'll be back. Hello? Yeah.
Fires can only occur when three different elements are brought together: heat, oxygen, and fuel. As oxygen is always with us, fires are usually started by bringing together the other two elements, heat and fuel. Remove the fuel, and there's nothing to burn. It doesn't matter if you work in a big modern industrial plant or in premises which have seen better days. You may use a range of complex high-tech products or simply operate a copying machine. Wherever you are vulnerable. Oxygen, heat, and fuel are never far away. One sheet of paper can start a major fire. When it burns, it gives off a combustible vapor, which itself ignites. It generates more heat. Oxygen feeds the flames, and a small fire can quickly spread, as it did in this case. So fuel and heat must be kept apart. Heat can be produced in a number of different ways. Electrical equipment is involved in many fires. Lack of maintenance often causes trouble. Electric motors produce heat. They need ventilation. If air inlets become blocked or are accidentally covered, motors can overheat. Temporary wiring causes many problems. Cables are vulnerable. In potentially hazardous locations, they must be protected and sighted away from anything which might put them at risk. In your own interests, electrical work should only be done by qualified electricians. Because equipment works, it doesn't mean it's safe. When we filmed this office, we looked behind the desks, and this is what we found. Over the years, new machines had been added to wiring originally installed when it was a far less busy place. In due course, wires which are out of sight may feel the strain of handling a load they were never meant to carry. This sort of make-do and mend approach to electricity can easily prove fatal. It often does. When the insulation fails, there will be a short circuit and a fire may well result. The right method may take a little longer and cost a bit more, but at least you'll know you're safe. When you finish your work, switch off the power and disconnect the supply. Wherever you work, if you use any electrical equipment, when you've seen this video, give it a check. Look in the obvious places and the less obvious ones, and make sure you're not unknowingly putting yourself at risk. Is the equipment you're using in good repair, or does it need maintaining? Is it the right equipment for the job? Check now yourself, or someone may have to do it for you.
thank you for that.
Fires are traumatic. In a few minutes, they can affect the rest of your life. It pays to take every possible safety precaution. So isolate hazardous processes and be on the lookout for potential dangers. Many people are unaware of the hidden power of the materials they use. It's so easy to do a job and not see or forget to read the manufacturer's instructions. Perhaps they are not there, though they may have been once. The danger was clear until someone thought an old soap container would be easier to use. Now he may not know what he's using. Flammable liquids are involved in quite a lot of fires. To Jack, that bowl just contains a cleaning fluid. Because it has been recanned, he doesn't know it's flammable. When flammable liquids are left uncapped, they give off vapor. Using special effects techniques, we can show how it behaves, though in real life it's invisible. It's heavier than air, so it sinks to the ground, filling the whole area with a mixture which is highly explosive. For a disaster, all you need is a source of heat. The vapor is as dangerous as the liquid. If you use even a small amount of any flammable liquid, protect yourself by using the right equipment for the job. Safety containers are sturdily built, and they're designed to stop vapor escaping. If this bath catches fire, even if it's left open out of normal working hours, a fusible link will melt and put out the fire. When flammable liquids are accidentally spilled and ignited, a fire can quickly spread. Safety containers can prevent problems occurring. When you finish work, always ensure that potentially dangerous substances are kept in a suitable store, which can be properly secured. Arrangements like this are asking for trouble. When hazardous materials are involved in fires, the results can be disastrous. So make sure you know all about the materials you use in your job. And if they're flammable, take the precautions we've discussed. Many jobs involve using materials which are perfectly safe when they're used correctly, but potentially dangerous if simple safety precautions are ignored. Using British standard approved hoses and the right clips, the chances of a gas leak are minimized. If there is a leak, you may be able to smell it. Brush the connections with liquid detergent, and you will find out where the problem lies. When you've found out what's wrong, you can turn off the gas and correct the fault. Gas appliances are perfectly safe when they're maintained and used properly. But remember that they too often produce heat. So before you light up, make sure there aren't any flammable materials nearby. Before gas equipment can be sold, manufacturers carry out their own tests to ensure their products meet the highest safety standards. Their knowledge and experience can help to protect you. So before you use any gas appliance, read the instructions and follow the manufacturer's recommendations. If you're working indoors, ensure there is adequate ventilation at low and high levels. But perhaps there are no special hazards where you work. You're in an office or in some other building where there has never been a fire, and you don't think there ever will be. Well, that's what the people who worked here thought, until this happened. Last year in Britain, around 900 people died in fires they never expected. It pays to be prepared. To keep an eye open for the simple mistakes which can allow a blaze to start. Rubbish is the starting point for many major fires. Packing materials and waste left lying around are easily ignited, and a small blaze can quickly spread. So clean up as you go along. Keep your own working area neat and tidy, and don't leave rubbish lying around. Stack materials neatly and keep access routes clear. In an emergency, they could be your only way out. When fire breaks out, every second counts. If you don't know what to do, you can find yourself in trouble. In this hospital, they hold regular drills, so if a fire occurs, there shouldn't be panic. When people are not prepared, the cost can be high.
What condition are the people in that
Terrible.
you've seen?
Terrible.
What sort of injuries have they got?
Oh, burns. Half of them, you can hardly recognise them. Terrible. Some of them, the hair, the face, horrible sight to see. And the bodies burnt beyond recognition. Children, I've never seen anything like it in my life.
One of the biggest hazards in any fire is smoke. It kills more people than flames, and it can spread quickly, making it impossible to escape. We arrived to film this fire with the fire brigade, within 3 minutes of the alarm being raised. It wasn't a major blaze, just a pile of books burning in a lift. But 15 minutes after it had been extinguished, 3 floors above the blaze, it was difficult to breathe, and everything was black. When fire broke out on the floor below this office, heat and smoke did all this damage in a very short time. How would you manage if you suddenly find yourself trapped in a situation like this? Do you know what you should do? Firemen survive because they spend years learning how to deal with every possible type of emergency.
The connector is locked.
When they go into action, they know what to do because they are fully prepared. But what about you? If your fire alarm sounds, do you know how to use your firefighting equipment and how to evacuate the building, or are your escape routes blocked? When fire broke out here, 6 people died because they could not reach the exits. Can your firefighting equipment be relied on to put out a small fire before it can spread? Or will you waste precious time trying to find it and make it work? As we said before, in a fire, every second counts. If you have not prepared yourself in advance, it may be too late to find out. So take a tip from the fire brigade and be prepared. If a fire breaks out where you work, there are 3 main things you should do. Raise the alarm, evacuate the building, and if it is safe to do so, try to put the fire out. Let's consider each of these points. If you don't already know, find out how you should raise the alarm if a fire starts where you work, and where you should go if that happens. When you evacuate the building, close the doors behind you. When fire broke out here, these doors were shut. The fire stopped at this point because the doors prevented smoke and flames spreading. Up to this point, they were left open. If you have to call the fire brigade, your call will be received in a center like this. Specially trained staff will pass the appropriate details to your nearest fire station by computer or telex. Control centers cover large areas, so when you call, be sure to give your full postal address. It's no use saying there's a fire in Church Road or the High Street. That could be anywhere. Give the full address, explain what is happening, and help will be sent. When you know help is on the way, you can attempt to tackle the fire if you feel it is safe to do so. To put a fire out, you need to use the right equipment and right techniques. He's so close, he made the fire spread. In an open-air training session, it doesn't matter, but in a smoke-filled room, it could be far more serious. Let's see what happens with an identical fire, the same firefighter and the same extinguisher, after a little training. How would you manage if you were here? You've got fire extinguishers where you work, but have you ever looked at them or read the instructions? Extinguishers work in different ways, and they're designed to do different jobs. So let's spend a few minutes looking at the types you're most likely to encounter and see what they should be used for. For fires involving ordinary combustible materials like wood, cloth and paper, you should use water from a hose reel or a water extinguisher. Aim the jet carefully and keep it moving so it can remove the heat and put the fire out. Again, it's much easier if you are prepared. On the front of the extinguishers in your building, you will find there are clear instructions explaining how they should be used. Read them today, when you've seen this video. Then if you have to use them, you will know what to do.
Much easier.
Let's now consider fires involving electrical apparatus. Before you do anything else, turn off the power. You can then use a carbon dioxide extinguisher like the one being demonstrated here. Carbon dioxide extinguishers are usually black with a nozzle attached. They can be used safely on electrical and small flammable liquid fires. So, when electrical equipment is involved, use carbon dioxide. And before you do anything else, turn off the power. Never use water. For fires involving flammable liquids, you have a choice. You can use dry powder. It too comes in various shapes and sizes, and it can be used on any type of fire. But as it is rather messy, it's probably most suitable for use on burning liquids. Again, it's fast and effective. You can also use vaporizing liquid, which is sometimes known as BCF. BCF extinguishers are usually green. All you have to do is remove a pin, aim, and squeeze a lever. If the burning liquid is in a container, you can use a fire blanket to cut off the oxygen the fire needs to stay alight. Alternatively, you can use foam. It works in a similar way on any size of fire. A film of foam keeps the oxygen and fuel apart. If the foam is disturbed, it will quickly reform, so the fire can't reignite. Let's summarize. For ordinary combustible materials, always use water. For electrical apparatus, it's best to use carbon dioxide and always turn off the power. For flammable liquids, you can also use carbon dioxide. And you can use vaporizing liquid, BCF. Dry powder is also very effective. You can cut off the oxygen supply with the fire blanket. Or you can use foam. So check your extinguishers today and make sure they are regularly serviced. Then you will know you can rely on them in any emergency. Today, as a result of the simple errors we have looked at, there will be more disasters. Fires which will cost money, jobs, and lives. If you carry out the checks we've looked at in this program, you will be safer than you were 20 minutes ago. Not everything we have said will apply to you, but if there is just one point which you have not thought about and can now act upon, your time has not been wasted. If, on the other hand, you think fire prevention is someone else's problem, the next casualty could be you.